It is the Inside LAFC podcast. Max Bretos, Katia Castorena. How was Saturday at BMO Stadium? We're heading to this nice few final games for LAFC before they get a little break. We don't want to talk about it yet, but it's on the horizon. But how was game day?
Game day is always great, being at
Good
BMO
answer.
Stadium, atmosphere. So I had a good time. Not so much because of the result. I know it's a frustrating game for the players, for the fans. It's one of those things where yes, you cut that losing streak, you get a point at home, but it's one of those points that ends up tasting like a defeat. So it's a little bit tough because of how things went down. We're going to break those for you, of course. But hey.
I'm going to break down something that you asked Steve after the game, which I found very interesting. We'll get into that. Giorgio Chiellini will join us. I believe it's the anniversary of Italy winning the Euros. I'll ask if he can confirm that. But we have a great show. It's Inside LAFC. We'll preview the games at St. Louis. Are St. Louis the favorites in the West now?
They're the most fun team to watch, according to ESPN.
Wow, I don't know about that. We'll find out. St. Louis, Minnesota, coming up this week. Inside LAFC podcast starts right now. We are back here getting ready. Leagues Cup is around the corner. We talked about that a little bit last week, and we'll talk about that a lot because it's the unknown now. But LAFC and Katia, 2 more games here, and I believe at the end of that, it'll be 13 games in 6 weeks and 3 days. And I said that out loud. Maybe it doesn't sound like a lot, but 13 games, normally you play over 11 weeks, most MLS teams. I think it's fair. So that's a lot. And I know people are going, we don't want it, but, this is the finish line, and there was all these games in hand. Those games in hand aren't around anymore, so now LAFC's margin for error is closing down. So they have 2 big games looking forward to it. There was a 3-game losing streak. We'll start with the San Jose result and a 1-1. They had to come from behind, which I think is something you don't kind of sweep away here. To respond, you never know how it goes. They got to get away from that habit from falling behind. But a tie is better than a loss. But obviously they want more points and they want more goals.
It's a recurring topic now.
Yeah.
The fact that you have to be chasing the game, you
I
have
know
to
you
come
know it.
from behind, you concede first, you create the opportunities, but then there are those mistakes that you end up conceding a goal, and now you have to come from behind, and it takes a toll mentally. I even asked Steve and the players about it, of how difficult it is and how much pressure does that add to the attackers as well. And then we've been mentioning, of course, over and over again, the fact that this group is fatigued, and it is a reality. They've had so many games, but also they've had some players' absences because of Gold Cup, because of injuries. And you can see it from the starting lineup against San Jose over the weekend, where you had to throw Mamadou Fall, his first game back, out there for 90 minutes, have him there on defense. You got Cheeky back after the suspension. But then the midfield, Kellyn Acosta had to take that defensive midfielder role instead of Ilie. And then just look at the 3 up front, where you had to start Matti as a number 9, then Stipe on the right, Denis on the left. So it just tells you and shows you that Steve has to find a way to put the best lineup out there possible, available to him, because it's been a challenge.
Wouldn't ask this to Steve, but I would imagine his intention was not to start Mamadou Fall this early, incorporating him. But he wanted to see what he's like, and I think, I don't want to call it experimental, but it's a chance to see it because the rubber hits the road here pretty soon for LAFC, and it's going to get serious about these results, and they're going to go. But they want to see if Mamadou can be someone they can rely on here. The intentions are there, but like most LAFC players we see him, you break them in bit by bit. But we'll talk a little bit about him. And you mentioned Aaron Long is with the U.S. men's national team. They won over the weekend, so they have a game on Wednesday. So if they lose to Panama, some people think they're going to lose to Panama. He'll be back, probably could be available for the final game against Minnesota. And then Jesus Murillo, we're waiting there for more details coming back from that injury from before. So you have Giorgio, you have Daniil, and now you have Mamadou Fall. So center backs, pure center backs by and large. That is what you have to work with. They'll like to build it out a little bit more, but it's going to be a great competition moving forward. But Mamadou coming in there, he's obviously involved with the Espinoza goal. I know you talked to Steve after the game, and he said, he was very specific. We made some adjustments. We talked to him, and he was much better. But that's it'd be crazy to think that someone coming out of the blue, coming from Spain, would just roll in there and just lock it down immediately.
Yes, he was on loan with Villarreal, just got back 10 days ago or so. He started training, trying to get back into that rhythm. Players that he hasn't played with before that weren't here when he was here. Everything's new.
New coach.
So all of a sudden you have to, be ready too fast to go out there, play 90 minutes when there's all this pressure because of the results that we've seen out of LAFC lately. So it was tough, true. Then we saw those mistakes, those turnovers, those transitions where he had two back-to-back. San Jose had two back-to-back transitions with Espinosa. The first one, they got lucky because he had beaten their Mamadou Fall that first time, and then his shot just went wide. And then again, that second transition play where Espinosa did not miss this time around. And then Mamadou Fall, even though he did a good job like tracking back, getting there into position, he gave Espinosa too much of a gap. And he even took ownership at the end of the game. Mamadou Fall said, "That's all on me. I just need to be better."
They got those minutes under their belt. I'm sure they like to lean into here, and when everyone's available, and hopefully that is Leagues Cup, which I think, look, they'll finish these games here this weekend, and then the Leagues Cup the Leagues Cup groups that qualify for the tournament will take you through the end of July, so they'll have a game somewhere there in the early days of August. But I want to talk about something else that you brought up, and Steve mentioned it when he said, we've got to learn to win games 1-0. And I was like, that's interesting, because this is a game that they trailed, so you had to come back. But I mean, the way I decipher it is like he knows goals under these circumstances is going to be hard to come by. Maybe they'll explode. I get the feeling there's going to be a cathartic moment for LAFC, and they'll have a 3 or 4 goal game. I don't know if it's going to be Wednesday against St. Louis or away at Minnesota, who did give up 4 goals in their last home game. We shall see. But it seems like this stretch, he knows this team. It's going to be hard because he's asking, I would think, those frontline players to help as much defensively because he wants to get those results. Clubs have succeeded so well through the years by getting 1-0, 1-0 results through the years.
Giorgio Chiellini would agree with that. He'd be the first one to be.
We'll talk to him about it.
Please.
But I thought that's the results he knows it are the best opportunity for LAFC to get results, victories here, is to not concede the goals. Get that goal and squeeze the most out of it. Probably should have gotten that here. I mean, that was they responded really well with the Denny Bouanga penalty win, and that played against 10 men. Couldn't really break down that San Jose low block. Did get some good looks, though, at the end. But I think that, and then if the Galaxy, if you don't concede late, you could get, you add it. You get a point here. You get 2 more points here. I thought it was very interesting he would say that, because that really is a chance where you could say, look, we're not going to get those goals up front. We defend, we get those results. We got to play close to perfect there on the defensive end.
It's those little moments, and we've seen it not just on the attacking side, but especially on defense. And it starts with that, being solid on defense to build on top of that. And that's where they've been missing. And I agree with Steve when that's the basis for everything. And you have to try and win 1-0 and then go from there. And that's been tough. And it's the first time that he addressed the fact that they haven't had that continuity in the back line. When we see all those changes, we had to look up the stat of when was the last time that he was able to have those same 4 players in the back when we've seen different center backs, different fullbacks because of injuries, because of what we were talking about, some being away on national team duty like Aaron Long. So not having that continuity, it's affecting the communication. And when it comes to those little moments, those decisions, those passes, that you make a mistake and it's costing you.
They were a 1-0 machine a bit when Aaron Long was around. I think they really missed him. And remember, the Gold Cup with the U.S., they didn't play for a week, so they're gone almost 3 weeks, close to maybe longer than that. But when Aaron Long was around, you had that feeling that they could get these 1-0 results, and certainly with Aaron and Jesus. And again, you'd love LAFC to be that enterprising team where they could score goals, but you got to be able to take care of that. And you can't really fall behind in these games, especially against St. Louis, which we'll talk about here in a moment. Stipe Buick, we even mentioned to him, and I mentioned that quote, and he said, the defensive effort has to start with us at the front. And I found that very interesting, too, because that is what they want to. I'm not saying it's prioritizing it, but that's something that they have to get right.
Yeah, it's a team effort, everybody contributing, everybody trying to pressure the opponent and just find a way to not concede those goals. That's going to be very important, especially as you mentioned with St. Louis coming up and what we've seen out of that team. The flashy new kid in town.
Still doing it.
Yes, on the road or like on track to break a record as an MLS expansion
And
team,
LAFC.
which LAFC did it, yes, in 2018.
An
57
LAFC
points. And now St. Louis is after that record that LAFC holds.
They have
And
38, I believe.
38 after the win over the weekend against Toronto, so 38 points atop of the West.
They have
40
13
goals.
games. Oh my. 12 games left, I think.
Yeah, 40 goals now, so it's an attacking team. They've been scoring. It's going to be interesting, that matchup in particular, because we've been talking about those deficiencies for LAFC's back line. And now we have on the other side this team that is in that attacking mindset that has 40 goals, so it's going to be an interesting one.
40 goals, they don't get the ball a lot. They will press you and they'll make you make mistakes. And I think that is a very important facet for LAFC's preparations. They can't make those mistakes in their defensive third. St. Louis, by the way, this is the last chance to see a game at BMO Stadium for a couple of weeks. So if you've been thinking about it, go to LAFC.com, get some tickets, because this Wednesday night they're on the road, and then we wait a couple of weeks, and then you can decompress as a supporter. We can decompress a little bit as broadcast media members, just a little bit.
A little bit.
Supporters can,
because we need to be focused, taking notes of every little play and detail.
I know, it's true, but even us, we can kind of. I'm really looking forward to seeing. I'm sure the players will get some time off, but I'm looking forward to seeing everyone's just face, because you can sense it. And I know I've said this before on the broadcast, but you can sense that the weight of this demanding schedule, which no team should have. By the end of Saturday, they would have played 33 games, which is basically an MLS season, which is 34 games in that stretch. So come out, support the guys on Wednesday, because you won't be able to do that for a couple of weeks, so it's a good spot.
Stipe and all the guys just said, like, they can't wait for it to come. It can come soon enough, that break, for them to just, like...
They can see it now. They go, all right, now I can...
Breathe a little bit. Yeah, they can see the finish line, and then...
It's like as a kid when Christmas, you're like, I got to be good for another week. Oh, I can see Santa coming down here, and don't mess it up now. I'm just kidding. It's not a really good analogy. So St. Louis City, you were saying at the beginning, ESPN's calling them the most exciting team.
Most fun to watch.
Most fun to watch. When you're at home, they're a lot of fun to watch, and their crowd is outstanding. And now they've been the same team all season. It's been really interesting to watch. Not coming in here, they've been explicit about not spending a lot of money on players. In the DP role. I remember there was this talk about Roberto Firmino in it because he had a relationship with Luch Pfannenstiel, the sporting director there. But then it makes sense because they'd have to pay him a lot because they're doing great with this collective. Everyone's bought in. They're doing it the right way. And now they have... The crazy thing is, like, everyone comes to LAFC and go, we're going to get points. This is LAFC. We're going to prove ourselves. The roles could be reversed a little bit. I think LAFC could go, wait a minute, who's this team coming in? You have the target on your back.
Now the pressure might be a little bit on LAFC because of the past results. You're at home. You don't want to give that game to St. Louis where they're just enjoying being the new kid in town, as we were talking before, all flashy, like I'm going to come here with the MLS champions and get the result. So I do believe the roles have been reversed a little bit where LAFC might have that pressure that they need to perform well because, as you mentioned too, it's going to be the last game at BMO Stadium in a while. So they just want to give out a good performance with their fans, so it's going to be interesting for sure.
I forgot to mention about the winning 1-0, and through this stretch from May 31st, which was the first leg of the CCL game where things got really, really busy. That was that 13 game over 6 weeks. Can you imagine that was 6 weeks ago? Crazy, huh? But that is the one thing I would say. They haven't conceded a lot of goals. There was that game against Houston and obviously the Vancouver one. But generally, they are pretty tidy there defensively, even though they've had to rotate a lot of players there. So I think they can hang their hat out. Against a team on the road, this could be really your archetype game where you get the 1-0. It is explicit. I had a little piece of paper, Katia, and I can't find it. But I had St. Louis's record when they score first. They're unbeaten, and they've, over long games, this is critical, and I'm not saying that LAFC have a chance if they fall behind, but, man, if they can avoid falling behind, they're in good shape. They have won their last 2 games, both of them, I think their last 3 wins, they scored first. It is what they do, and you could read it, and it changes a lot if LAFC are able to score first.
That's what Steve said. We have to make good decisions. It comes down to those good decisions, and we have to be sharp, both on the attacking side, on the defensive side, on transition, because St. Louis is a team that will force those turnovers and will capitalize on it. So they have to be very focused, not give them those turnovers so that they can score first, as you mentioned, because they have a good record when they get to do that. So that's going to be interesting. And even though they haven't seen each other, Steve said this is a team that has the Red Bull DNA. So we know what we're up against, we know what we will face, and we will be prepared.
Red Bull DNA means they're gonna make you work hard. But you can get them tired. You can get them tired if they don't get their way early on and they have to work and they run out of steam. It's a fascinating game to watch when you see the Red Bulls or St. Louis City, because it could be feast or famine, although it's been all feast for St. Louis City, who are going to be a playoff team. The question is, how far do they finish in the West? But got the 5 points up on LAFC. So I'm doing the math. If St. Louis were to win this game, it's 8 points. It's a lot of points. Heading into a break where it's going to make you think it could be a lot different if it's a 2-point gap.
A lot of points. And talking about numbers, if we look at what LAFC has faced in the past few weeks, since that Open Cup game against the Galaxy, granted, it was a B team, an academy team, but since then...
No caveat, no asterisks here.
Including the U.S. Open Cup and the Champions League final, the CONCACAF Champions League final, first leg, second leg, they've only had 2 wins in the past 12 games. So it's been
much different than what we saw experience earlier in the year.
It's been tough, and that's why we say, and the players say it, and the coaching staff says it, that the break cannot come soon enough because it's been a lot for them.
It's been a grind, and you can see it. But this team is engaged. They have a great time with each other. They're in good spirits. They generally like each other, and they're working hard together. They're frustrated it's not falling, but it's a weird sport, A weird sport that sometimes you have to, these things change. You're going, we're doing the same thing. We're not getting the same results, but you have to kind of recalibrate. That's what they're doing. And I don't want to pass people are going, well, what? There are obviously some improvements that could be made. We're in the summer market. I would imagine LAFC is active in some capacity. How big that is, I have no idea. Obviously, Mahala departing to Montreal. Now they have that nice little extra chunk of allocation money. But I want to, before I get too far into it, I want to see this team, how they looked at the beginning of the season with wind in their sails. Their legs aren't heavy. Yes. I think that's fair. And then if it's the same form, we're seeing that, I think we can have it now. They know they need to do something here because it's getting really tight in the West. They had a little space. There's a lot of teams that could jump them. Real Salt Lake are on their heels. There's a couple other teams. Austin's on their heels too. So you want to get into those good. You can only imagine if you want to break, you don't want a stretch without wins kind of to think about the whole time.
Yes, just to have some cushion there and just clear your mind, feel good before the break, definitely. I'll just stick with what Mari Bogusz said after the game. He said, I know this team, I see my brothers and my teammates at work, and I know that we will be better. I have no doubt in my mind that we will be better. It's just a rough stretch. It happens. It's a long season, but I know we'll come better on the other side.
Remember, teams that have gone through there have struggled. So St. Louis City Wednesday. Minnesota's going to be a weird one. I can't put my finger on this team. They did have Emmanuel Reynoso, who was MIA for the beginning of the season. But he's come back. He's scoring goals. He's contributing a little bit more. He has been very effective against LAFC in years past. I know LAFC got some nice results up there at Allianz Field. It's the way it is. But that'll be the final game when they wrap up this stretch. And St. Louis City, we know. We know what it's going to look. I don't know about Minnesota. I don't know, but maybe that's a benefit. Maybe that's a good thing. You kind of go in there. They're a little in disarray. It's going to be a big result for them. 2 games this week. Got to squeeze the most out of it.
A week of 6 points, as we hear it often.
4? I'll take 4.
Yes.
I think you want to get the 3 at home, and then if you get 4 against Minnesota, maybe in reverse wouldn't be as sweet.
Yeah, but if you get those 4, like you mentioned, I think it'd be a good week before the break.
Good week before the break. Inside LAFC podcast. Max and Katia breaking it all down. Get your butt to BMO Stadium on Wednesday. We will be back. Giorgio Chiellini will join us. We'll talk about this anniversary of Italy winning it. And what he has been seeing, he's part of that central defensive team and talking about grinding out 1-0, 1-0 results, whatever your vernacular of choice is. We'll be right back. We're back here on the Inside LAFC podcast. Katia Castorena wanted to be here. She had a pressing appointment. She's devastated she can't be here to do the interview.
Yeah, I could be better. I don't know. I don't know. For something, yes. For something, no.
It's just you and me.
Yeah, it's very nice to be here.
Giorgio Chiellini. And before we get into it, I noticed when I woke up Tuesday morning, you were very active on Twitter and Instagram. It is the 2-year anniversary of Italy winning the Euro 2020, but in 2021.
Yeah, it was.
Can you believe it's 2 years?
No. Great memories, a lot of tension, but huge emotion. Yeah, my biggest goal of the career, 100%. Win with the national team is something that you cannot describe. It's much more also with the club, and something really unbelievable and still fantastic in my memories.
You still talk to Bonucci? Because I remember at the end it was you and him. Because they remember England was going, it's coming home. And what did you guys say?
It's coming Rome.
It's coming to Rome. And it was you guys have to have some nice conversations about that.
Yeah. It was a beautiful month because England played at home 6 of 7 games. All the fans was there for them. There was COVID and was all were difficult from Italy fans when there. 90,000 people that supported England. One in their stadium was much more beautiful.
Yeah. I remember that. That wasn't fair. They had an unfair advantage. That was an incredible game to watch. That felt like a World Cup final. I mean, It felt like a World Cup. I know it wasn't.
At the end, it's the same. For sure, World Cup is something bigger, but the feeling is almost the same. And concede a goal after 2 minutes when seems with everything seems going in the wrong direction, and we're able to maintain the calm, take the lead of the game, draw, and go until the end. And then PK was every time something. The 50%. We were lucky, but we deserve it.
Yeah, the Donnarumma was locked in.
Huge.
He was locked in. The final was great. The semifinal was Spain, right?
Yeah.
And that's where you went viral because before the penalties, who was it with Spain? You're like, hey, have a good luck. And he's like, get away from me.
But at the end, it was just because I think he didn't understand what the referee said. There is 2 draw. One about the goal in which we play, we shoot, and the other one is who start before. And blue is for Italy and red is for Spain. Just for that, it's not about some decision. But at the end, it was good. We saw the game, the match against Spain was the most trouble in the Euro. We struggled for 120 minutes. They really played very well, and with the ball, they're fantastic. We cannot compare with them about possession ball. We were a team that liked to have the ball and lead the game, but at the end was impossible against Spain, and we were able to change our way of play and defend like Italy did for all his history. And for a game, we changed our goals, our way of win the game at the end. Also, we reached the penalties. At the end we were a little bit lucky, but for what we have done in all the Euro, I think we were the best team of that tournament.
I like how you said Italy defended like they have done throughout their history, and they did. And I can't believe, Giorgio, that happened 2 years ago. Now I'm sitting here talking to you about it, so it's wonderful for me. Let's talk about LFC. So you have a week here, and 6 weeks since CONCACAF Champions League. Can you imagine 6 weeks? It's been 6 weeks since it's, and 13 games in 6 weeks and a few days. You have these 2 games to prepare for, and then you can a little bit. Yeah. But this is an important week, obviously. You guys, in order to enjoy that, you got to get the most out of this.
I did a lot of interview in the last month, in the last 6 weeks, and what I said before every interview was prepare to struggle, because I knew and expected, after all the energy we spent for the CONCACAF Champions League, that we have some weeks in which the energies are less, the players are less, because we lost a lot of players in order to try to reach this cup, and also the player available start to become tired. It's normal. We have to finish in the best way as possible. We have two important games. The first one, especially now at home against St. Louis, that is leading the West. The goal of this year first is win the West. I'm sure that after August, this team will change the road and will restart to fly. But now we have to take the maximum from these two games. We know that will be hard, but I think that we restarted after Galaxy game to have a little bit of more focus and some players more that help us a lot in this period. And we are preparing to a tough match against St. Louis, who are deserving to be at the top of the table in the West. And they're a very dangerous team with real clear principle. Simple, but they're doing really very well.
Yeah.
Not the soccer.
Are you
has
surprised
not to
more
become-
teams don't do it that way and say, hey, it's simple, but it seems it's not easy, obviously. You got to get the right people.
Yeah. I think they're using the expansion, that the enthusiasm of the first year, they're doing in a very good way. It's not easy for a lot of games in a row, and they're doing very well, especially the last months and a half without their best player, because they're missing the 2 DP, and we know in this league how much is difficult play without them. And then really many congratulations to them for what they're doing. But for us it's too important try to win this game, but for sure not lose this game.
Do you feel, and you've had a lot of experience playing 2 games in a week, so I know you can explain that to these guys, that it's hard. It's hard your days at Juventus.
It's hard. What I never try is playing every 2 days after CONCACAF Champions League final. I think it was insane what we did. Play final on Sunday and have Wednesday, Saturday
After final.
Final, because usually the final is the last game of the year.
Yeah.
You spend all your energy to win the final, and you need time to recover. I cannot imagine to play after 3 days. It was insane. I think that could be a better schedule, but we had it. We don't have to cry about it, but go over. We lost some 2 match points in the last weeks, and now we want to come back and finish this game before the break, taking more points as possible, restart to winning a game, and then I'm 100% sure that after the break we will restart to play as the beginning of the year.
I wonder if maybe one day down the road they'll look at this LAFC as an example. Maybe the league would say, look, we can't put our teams through this, and you guys are living it, and I know people don't quite understand how demanding it is, but maybe they'll look and say, we got to change this. I don't know, we'll see, but it'll be interesting, because this was enough. Someone of your stature, and Steve and other players are saying, we are just, but it's very demanding with all these games they've played. You have 2 games again this week, and Steve said something after the game I thought was really interesting. He said, we have to learn to win games 1-0.
Yeah, we won 1-0 last game against Seattle.
Right.
In which we scored at the beginning, really the beginning.
That's the key,
but,
right?
No, but we played very organized. We were very solid. We did a good effort, and we respected Seattle team, because Seattle team is very good, and we were able to win 1-0. It's something that we have to do it more. But it's also draw. We have to draw when it's not possible to win. It's better draw than lose. I think that it's something that we have to learn, and we have sometimes some loss that we have the last weeks could be also some good throw that is very different for the table, but much more for the confidence.
And when he says we have to, again, it's important to know that it's not the goalkeeper, it's not the defenders, it's this whole team that has to. And we mentioned, we spoke to Stipe, and he goes, it begins with us too, to being able to say that. And is this also a case of him, because LAFC is going to start scoring goals. I mean, there's just too talented not to. But during the stretch, because of the games that one said, it was a more realistic. Or is your best chance to get 3 points?
I think that at the end, if you start to concede 0 goals, we win more 2-0 than 1-0. Because, we have a fantastic player in transition, and if you're able to play well and defend well all together, at the end we have more chance to score the second than concede the draw, the 1-1. But it's a step. I think that now we arrive from a period in which we were very tired and without focus in the key part of the games. We didn't understand sometimes how much is important, some details, some passes, some positioning between win or lose the game. And I was thinking about at home against Houston in Dallas was really, we waste a point or 3 points, it depends, but minimum a point, really too easily. It's about learning, it's about improving, but we have to know, we have to work on it. We know that it's impossible for many reasons that be really fit and focused every 2 days 100%, but especially when you are tired, you have to use more the head. It's a learn that something that I have learned in my career. It's not easy to replace here because few players are able to play every 3 days. And when you start to play every 3 days, you have to pay the bill. It's impossible.
It's hard.
It's hard.
And you would know more than almost anybody.
But also for me at the beginning was the same. The first years I started to play every 3 days, I was younger, but I did some mistakes just because I was not mentally focused and understand that sometimes you cannot be 100%, but also 70% or 80%. You have to think more also when your leg is not going so fast.
Very true. So you have the 2 games, a little time off. Do you know what's after that?
League Cup.
League Cup! I just love hearing him say League Cup.
League Cup.
League Cup. By the way, I also want to say to the folks at MLS Season Pass Apple TV, you're enjoying the coverage, right? It's good.
Yeah, I enjoy the coverage a lot. I like to watch MLS 360. Love it. I love to watch all the highlights, the MLS wrap or some highlights. It depends on the game. I want to study better. And it's a huge deal for the league. It's something that really improved the image of this league, and also it's good also for players.
Yeah, it's good for play, and it's good for watching
families.
Overseas and family, right?
Yeah, for families and friends.
A little late in Italy, but
yeah, the problem is that, especially in the West, is too late. I think for that play from the East, it's something that they could still watch on Euro. Now in the summer it's difficult, but especially in the winter, if we play a little bit earlier, will be better for my parents and my relatives and my friends. Then please move the lunch games from October to December.
Tell them, move the lunch games from October. For Giorgio's family, for
family and friends.
Family friends there in Italy. Hey, great to chat with you as always. We're always thrilled to be here and speak to you and learn from you and get inspired by you as well. So thank you, Giorgio.
Pleasure.
A friend here of Inside LAFC podcast. Rate, review, download, subscribe, tell a friend. We'll be back again next week. We'll recap that team as, again, we pivot towards that next big portion of the season. For Giorgio and Katia.
Hopefully after 2 wins.
After 2 wins. What if?
4 points.
6-point window. 6-point window.
6 points. Yeah, 4 is enough.
I said 4 is good. 4 will be happy.
4 would be happy.
So teach kids from St. Louis first. We'll see you soon. No guarantees, but just want to throw it out there.